Hello, you beautiful freaks. It is Hectic coming at you with a very important subject today. Before we kick it off on this competitive Battlefield discussion, though, I would like to point out one thing. The gameplay really doesn't kick off until like 2 or 3 minutes in. There's some party issues. I'm squatted up right now. I think I go like 43 and 16. It was a pretty intense gameplay. You know, it wasn't my best or anything like that, but it was definitely a pretty intense gameplay. I thought I was just going to post it up for you guys. Without further ado, let's just break it down and get right into the discussion. So, for those of you who don't know, I used to be a competitive player. I never really played first-person shooters. Well, that's a lie. I played Halo competitively and Call of Duty competitively, but not nearly as successfully as I tried at Gears of War. Gears of War was definitely my mainstay. So was Ghost Recon, but that never really got on MLG circuit or anything like that. That was just a game battles game. But Gears of War, I went to many events for that game, and I competed heavily. I actually held my own tournaments for that game as well. And I've seen plenty of interviews with Sundance, and I understand the whole situation regarding picking up console games. And I mean, of course, I'm simply a competitor, so there are, I can only go so deep, right? There's on some level I'm gonna have to speculate, but I can tell you the practical problems for those of you who haven't been to an MLG event, or for those of you who are wondering, what gives? Why isn't Battlefield a competitive game? What's going on here? I can explain to you some of the issues that I can see at face value, and I can tell you the good, the bad, and we'll just go from there. I'll leave it all out on the table, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the video. Alright, so we're going to start off with the bad first, guys. First of all, just take out the whole Battlefield situation. We can just look at it, we step outside of the game for a second. So, when you look at Battlefield, I've seen a lot of people playing 5v5s, not 4v4s, and that's a problem, right? When you're going to play a competitive game, it has to be 4v4, at least when it comes to a shooter. It has to be 4v4. And unless you're like League of Legends or something and you can manage those big teams because you have such a gigantic market. But typically when it comes to shooters, it's 4v4. And the reason for that, the big reason for that, is because when you're playing in just regular bracket play in the beginning of the tournament, you have teammates on split screens, which means you have two teammates on one TV. Now, you can imagine if you have 5 people on one team, that means you have 2 monitors that are for, 4 different people, and then one monitor for just one person. Now, some people will be like, okay, well, that's whatever. Well, it's not, because that's actually a big cost. Let's say there's a huge turnout. Let's say there's like 132 teams or something like that. That's a lot of money to drop on simply monitors. And if the turnout isn't good, then all of a sudden you just wasted tons of money. So just on the outside looking in, just looking at the analytics of that point of view, that's where things get kind of weird. On top of that, we want to get a little deeper into the game itself. Battlefield is not so much of a close quarters game. It relies a lot on long distance based combat, and it succeeds in that. Battlefield is a big team type of game. You typically want to have a lot of people playing in one game at a time, and if it's like 4v4, it's just not as exciting. So, in order for Battlefield to really succeed, I really feel like it's going to have maps that are smaller. I mean, it's just going to have to be smaller. I mean, and I've heard the argument, okay, well, what about, the close quarters, map pack, or, what about all these, there's tons of small maps. Well, okay, give me 6 maps that are symmetrical that, can rival Call of Duty's maps, and that's just I like Battlefield more than Call of Duty, but Battlefield has the game on lock in terms of FPS. It's just all there is to it. There's just no stopping Call of Duty. It has perfectly symmetrical maps, and of course it has those crazy, big team battle maps, of course. But in terms of competitive play, it really put out, and Battlefield needs to do that if it wants to be successful in the FPS arena. We can't have 32 on 32 tournaments. It's financially just not feasible. And that's one of the big problems with Battlefield from my perspective, just from a competitive player's point of view. I'm not trying to look down on the Battlefield community, because I really do love this game. I mean, I really want to see it succeed. I could be completely wrong, by the way. Let me just throw that out there. I could be dead wrong. We could see a 32-person tournament not even ran by MLG. I'm simply using MLG as a benchmark for my basis of understanding, because I've been to MLG events, and I've been to a few other local LAN events, but MLG is the big one. Anyway, that's really those are the big issues. And also you kind of want to build up competitive celebrities. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when it comes to Call of Duty, you have players like Nadeshot and, you know, Parasite and all these big dudes. And of course, you know, the fact that it was competitive helped them out, but there really has to be icons and beacons within the Battlefield community that can be that voice of reason for and have a big following as well. That can reach out to developers, that can, you know, do what needs to be done. Because at the moment, the YouTubers are not the best for competitive advice. I mean, everyone kind of knows that. YouTubers are great, they're fun to watch, they're great for, you know, if you're new to the game trying to learn tips and tricks. But when it comes to competitive gameplay, it's just on a whole different level. And there needs to be those players with huge audiences that are very, very competitive and who are at the top. So, but that kind of goes hand in hand, you know, the game does have to be competitive in order for that type of thing to happen. Now, those are the bad aspects, right? So let's get all the bad stuff out of the way, and we'll dive into the good now. The good, what DICE is doing to really cement themselves as potentially a beacon for the competitive community. For really, I mean, Battlefield 4 could blow up, for all I know. And the reason for this, besides all of the bad that I listed, they have developer support, and it really looks like they're pushing the competitive community, and that's huge. If you have the developer on your side, I mean, it really doesn't matter, because they can throw money at it. They can do whatever they gotta do in order to make things happen. And that's really important. I remember when I played Gears of War, the developer support was pretty weak. Gears of War 1, 2, and 3. It was pretty weak. Gears of War 3 was a little better, but it's pretty weak, so it's really hard to have a competitive game when the developers just don't care. So the fact that DICE cares means a lot, and the fact that DICE updates their game incessantly means a lot. It means that they're dedicated. If they're really taking on this competitive side of Battlefield, chances are they're going to make it happen. And you can already see them, you know, they have that level Battlefield tournament, coming up. They also have the USA versus European tournament coming up. I mean, it really looks like they're kind of taking the power away from other tournament organizers and just saying, okay, look, if you guys aren't going to run tournaments, then we'll just do it ourselves. And I think that's awesome. I really do. You know, and what's going to happen is, because there's going to be a big demand for Battlefield tournaments, people are going to fill in. You know, it's not just going to be the developers running tournaments. It's going to be other people. MLG might come through, they might not. But because people want to play in these tournaments, there are going to be tournament organizers who step up to the plate, whether financially, whether through online tournaments, I don't know. Maybe game battles, I really, really don't know. But that's just my perspective. Again, from the outside looking in, this is not biased, this is not, you know, me hating on any game whatsoever. I'm just looking at it just as objectively as possible. I can tell you Call of Duty is king right now, and in order for Battlefield to be king, they need to look at what Call of Duty's doing and either do it better or find a system that's more financially feasible. Because you can't have 32 on 32 tournaments without creating like a huge monopoly where you have one tournament to rule them all. And that's not healthy. You want to have those local tournaments. You know, you want to have those tournaments that are grassroots based, where you can like go to your local GameStop or some local, you know, nerdy spot and then just like play the game that you love. That's how Halo started. That's how Gears of War started. That's how all of the big competitive games started. It was like a grassroots type deal where you had local tournaments, people would go through and they would, you know, just play 4v4 and go in. Now, I may be kind of talking off of a dinosaur model. Maybe 4v4 is not the mode of the future. And, you know, with the way internet connections are rolling, the way technology is progressing, within a few years, I mean, 4v4 could be just an outdated model. But at the moment, it still seems very relevant. And I think DICE does need to address this if they want to have a thriving competitive scene. Because you can't just have one tournament organizer running everything. It's just not, it's not productive. You need to have competition in terms of tournament organizations, and you need to have a variety. I mean, there needs to be more than one tournament a year to play for. So that's really all I have to say on the issue. Guys, sound off on the comments what you think DICE could do, what you think tournament organizers could do to be, you know, financially feasible in order to run like LAN tournaments for this game. So again, tell me what you guys think. I'd love to hear your opinion. I'd love to have a discussion in the comments. That would be beautiful. Anyway, it's been real. It's been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed getting grenaded, bombed, RPG'd. Anyway, this beta is awesome. If you guys haven't played it, Sucks. It's over. Anyway, the game will be out soon. Subscribe for more Battlefield action, everybody. Peace.
That news is a little more than a little laggy. Hectic, really? I went 6-1. I had a better KD than you. 43.